One night, I leave my body and a portal opens up. So I go through the portal and it came down to this planet. I went right into a school and I entered a body of a child.
Whoa.
And I'm freaking out. And I'm like, screw this. And I run out of the room. All I can think of is I need to find the library. I need to know where this is. And then I get popped out of this kid's body and they take me back through space, through the portal and into my body.
Whoa.
And I was like, is part of me, like an aspect of my spiritual self, this child on this world?
Right.
And as I'm going to sleep in this world, that aspect of me is then going over there.
Whoa.
Or you just possessed a child while he's
That's
another
messed up,
planet.
Jason.
That is literally what happened.
And welcome to the Acid for Squares podcast. I'm your host, Cody Blue.
And I'm your other host, Tanya Dahl. We are a really heavily censored show, and we need your help. If you could please like, subscribe, and comment below and share this episode, that would be so helpful because everyone is keeping us down.
Keeping us down. Keep us down.
Keeping us down. So today on the show, we have our amazing friend, Jason Quitt, on the show. So Jason is a experiencer turned researcher of out-of-body experiences, astral travel, mysticism, and shamanism, and an author of books about all of those subjects. So we have a really incredible show for you today. Really excited. So Jason,
what's up, brother?
how are you?
I'm great. I'm finally here in your studio.
I know.
And I remember when you were like, look, I want to tell you this little secret. Look what we're building. All right. And we got to get you out here.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the first people we told.
Yeah. And I was like, so now I'm seeing this on Instagram and I'm like showing my friends, like, look at how crazy the studio is. So I'm so stoked.
Thanks,
to be
Jason.
here with you.
We're stoked to be here with you as well. This has been a long time coming.
So, okay. So the reason why I'm really excited to have you here, on top of many different reasons, but is because, as I've talked about on the show before, I grew up being able to see ghosts and spirits and having these sleep paralysis. I had, all kinds of crazy stuff happen, and I was living in a constant state of fear. Now, this is something that Jason and I share in common. So could you speak a little bit about your upbringing and having these sort of experiences which brought you into the research you're doing now?
Sure. Well, it's been going on all my life. So for me, it was normal. But as a child, obviously, I thought I grew up in a haunted house because there was so much paranormal activity happening. It was very strange because it was more than just ghosts. I was the type of child who that closet door in my bedroom had to be shut before I can go to sleep.
Same.
If that was open a little, there would be an entity standing in that closet, and it just looked like this shadow. I called it the scarecrow. When you really kind of studied it, it looked like a humanoid figure, but it had form, and to me, it was kind of like a scarecrow type form, but all dark and black.
Damn.
So it was scary, and at nighttime, it would sometimes take me on journeys. I didn't know it was out-of-body experience back then.
Hold up.
Wait, the scarecrow would take you on journeys?
Yeah, well, it's like a shadow.
Did it say anything to you? Was it like, hey, bro, let's go? And you sneak out together, or would you just all of a sudden you're astral projecting outside of your body? And
how'd this work?
It's almost like the shadow's like a guide. So it's basically I would wake up, but it's not really waking up. It's this out of body experience. It's kind of like a dream. Let's say I look out the window from my bedroom, and it's not the backyard that I'm familiar with. It's like I've gone back in time. So behind my house when I grew up, there's this big park there. But when I look out the window, it was like cornfields, and it was a different season. So it's kind of like time traveling or seeing another timeline. Sometimes it would take me, and I remember very distinctly, it would take me down into the basement. And in the basement, there would be this coffin sitting in the basement.
What?
Yeah. And they would open the coffin and I would look into it, and it just looked like this kind of mummified body. This shadow wouldn't speak to me. It just kind of showed me things or taken me places to just make me observe something. All I can sense is like a child experiencing this. It's showing me that maybe this is like a life that they lived here on this property.
Oh.
And maybe they're stuck. And so they're showing me the cornfield, like that was their time when they lived here. And they're showing me their body, their coffin. This is where they were buried. So I honestly, I don't know. I'm a child at this point, but I remember like so many paranormal things going on in that house when I was growing up. And I have a younger brother who also experienced these things. And, you know, I remember like just simple things where we have a television in the basement and, you know, we would hear the TVs on. Like you could hear the volumes up. There's a TV show going on and my mother would yell at me, Jay, you left the TV on downstairs, go shut it off. And I can hear the TVs on and I run downstairs to shut it off. And as I like turn the corner to enter the room, the TV's off.
Oh, but you all heard it.
Oh, we all heard the TV. So I'm like, you know, this is weird. And there's one experience that me and my brother share that we still talk about where, you know, one night he comes running into my bedroom and he starts hitting me, like waking me up and hitting me with a pillow. And he's like crying. And I was trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, you came into my room and I hit him with the pillow first, right? And it wasn't me.
Oh my God.
At all. Then we got talking about it and he said that there wasn't anybody in his room when it was happening. It's just the pillow kind of levitated and started hitting him, waking him up. And he ran to me thinking that I did it.
So you were all experiencing wild stuff inside this home.
Yes.
Was this something that continued through other places that where everybody was experiencing stuff outside of you, or was it just this particular house?
It followed us. It followed us. So I moved to a new house when I was around 14 years old. I also had experiences in that house later on in my early 20s. And that's when things got crazy. So, you know, as a child, I did have past life memories. The past life memories were always traumatic. It was never like a nice thing. It was always like reliving a lifetime that you die. And you have to think of like the psychology of a child. These past life memories are like me being a knight and killing somebody else, you know, which is a traumatic experience, or fighting somebody to the death and just having gruesome things. As a child, you kind of run to your parents and say, this is happening. And the only answers you receive is, these are nightmares. And every person on planet Earth has nightmares. So I was just under the impression that I was completely normal. Everything that I was experiencing, everybody experienced. And I learned in elementary school. All right, so this is around grade 5, grade 6. Maybe I was different.
Same.
And what happened was I went to this new school, didn't really have any friends, and there was one guy there I started to become friends with. And that night, I had a past life recall with this person. So I remembered them in a past life.
And how old were you at this point?
Probably about like 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
So I had this full-on recollection of who I was and who this person was in a past life. And it was extremely traumatic. Like it was a bad life. I remember the next day I ran to that person in school, like, dude, don't you remember who we were? I killed you in a past life. Like I said this to the person.
Whoa.
It's like, don't you remember I killed you? They're like, no, not really. But eventually we became like best friends. And so we did have this kind of connection that goes from lifetime to lifetime. And he's still a great friend of mine. So it's amazing how these connections still stick, but it's like, I have that recollection, they don't. And then I just knew like, okay, I'm not going to talk about this in public anymore.
Not going to talk about Fight Club anymore?
No. Yeah.
So you started to suppress it after that?
Yeah. So I didn't really have experiences at all from like the ages of like 11 onwards.
Oh, so once you started suppressing sharing and all of it, it kind of shut the experiences down just... Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember any experiences after that. And then, and funny enough, this person I was talking about, we opened a recording studio in our 20s. So after college, we got together and we're like, let's set up a studio, let's make some music. And that's when these gifts or curses, as you may call, that's when it started to open up again this is around 2002, 2003.
Why do you call them a curse?
Because I don't wish it on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at first it was very hard.
It's scary.
Well, every blessing's a curse. Every curse is a blessing. They're one and the same. There's the, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like the shamanic path, the archetype, which you've already just laid out a lot of the, major tenets of the shamanic, archetype. I mean, it's like you got to go through hell to get to heaven, so to speak, you know?
In my early 20s, when I was working at the studio, I started to have sleep paralysis. And it wasn't just like here and there sleep paralysis. So I would go to bed at night, and at least a couple times a week, I would get put into sleep paralysis.
A couple times a week?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that happening. I've heard of it happening like a couple times, but
Yeah, that's an
that
insane
often?
ratio.
Yeah. That often. So it was like,
Oh my God.
it was a problem.
Ugh.
Okay, so what would happen?
So basically, I would wake up in the middle of the night, my mind fully awake and functioning, but my body is frozen. All I could do is basically scream in my mind to wake up. It's terrifying. And at first, I just noticed the paralysis. But then eventually, the more that this happened to me, I started to feel a presence with me. And as this presence would enter the room, I would be instantly shut down and frozen. So I started to have senses that there was something in the room with me while this was occurring. And the crazy thing about it is I can feel them walking around the bed. Sometimes they would even sit on the bed and it would feel like an impression on the bed.
That's always the weirdest thing ever. The feeling of something like walking on the bed or sitting on the bed or something like that. And then you look and nothing's there.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
But I couldn't even look because I was
Oh,
frozen.
because you're frozen. Oh, geez.
So
It's a whole
the
nother thing.
fear is huge. That's why I said I don't wish it on anybody,
Yeah,
because that
that's-
fear is
that's
intense.
wild.
Like I said, it was happening so often to me, and I noticed something was happening. As I'm in my body became my tomb, but there was like another body inside of me, and I could move that body in my body. It was like there was a separation.
Whoa.
Oh.
All right. So that's what it felt like. It felt like I was buried in my body, and I
Right.
was just waking up inside my body.
But it allowed you to differentiate between your etheric body and your physical body.
Yes.
Because, so, wow, that's insane. It's like, it reminds me of like Kill Bill, like breaking out of the, you know, the coffin that's buried, like you're, you know, wiggling.
Yeah.
Dude, insane. I've never heard this before with anyone.
Like I said, it was happening so often to me. It changed from fear to just straight up anger. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was just pissed off that this was happening to me. So one night I'm like shaking inside my body to wake up. Like I need this to stop. And I shook so hard that I popped out of my body.
Whoa.
And it's just like what they describe in like near-death experiences, where I found myself on the ceiling looking down at myself in the bed. I was like straight as a board, and my eyes were like wide open, frozen. Like it was very freaky.
That's
looking.
very creepy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Very. Well, wait, there's more. The reality is set in, like, did I just die? Being on the ceiling looking down at myself is not just a surreal feeling and experience. It's more real than this reality. You instantly know that you are more than a body. You instantly know that you live past your body, and you know that you're not hallucinating and you're not dreaming. It's like the biggest cosmic slap of reality you could ever have is to be outside your body looking at yourself. And then my attention was pulled to the foot of my bed. And as I turned to the foot of the bed, there's a big shadow standing at the foot of my bed. This shadow had form, and it looked exactly like someone, like a Grim Reaper, but wasn't holding anything. It just looked like this giant shadow standing at the edge of my bed. And I'm like, okay, I died. You know, the Grim Reaper's here. I'm gone.
It's happened.
It scared me so much. I've never felt that fear before. Just, it was like a shock that this was happening, that I got sucked back into my body and I woke up with my heart pounding. So that was like kind of like my initiation into this world of out-of-body experience and shamanism.
Take us to the time it happened where you realized that you weren't dead and you were able to explore astral projection a little bit more, or perhaps even understand what that figure is and what it was doing.
The strange thing about this experience is that once I left my body, once I had that separation, that went away. I never had sleep paralysis again.
Huh.
Okay, it was almost like that being, whatever it was forcing me into this kind of sleep paralysis mode to get me to have that separation.
Wow.
And once I had that separation, it was gone. It never came back. So I call it the initiator. That being was scary as shit, but that was my initiation.
Because it allowed you to feel your astral body, like feel your soul basically from your physical body.
Yeah,
Wow.
It woke me up, and it would use sleep paralysis to do that. And my curiosity, like I love mysteries, so my curiosity was beyond anything I can imagine. And all I could think of was that experience. And all I can think of is, how do I get there again? Most people, it's like they'll turn to God, and say, no more, never again. But for me, it was like, I need to figure this out. So what I found was I started to do meditations, and I would put myself to sleep at night, but my mind would stay active. And there's this kind of place between awaking and sleeping. There's this little window that as your body is falling asleep, if you keep your mind active enough, you start to witness the body shutting down by itself. The chemistry changes, your body shuts off, and you realize that every person enters sleep paralysis every single night. We're just not aware of it because your body shuts down so you can sleep. But if your astral body is awakened, if your mind is aware, you can watch the process of the body going to sleep.
Oh yeah, so you're not acting out your dreams. That's right. Because if people are like running around or something like that, that's right.
So sleep paralysis doesn't exist. The body is paralyzed. The consciousness is awake. But because it's foreign, people say, I'm paralyzed. But it's like, no, you're just differentiating between your sleep, your physical sleep state and your conscious mind being awake, which is are you saying it's a precursor to astral projection?
Correct.
Whoa.
Correct. So if you can become aware of the body shutting down, and you can do this through meditation, you can train yourself to meditate and shut down your body. And this is how the masters can leave and do their work.
Well, how do you do that?
Just by meditating.
Just meditating.
It's a chemistry thing. It's a brainwave thing. So as you're breathing and meditating and calming everything down, your brain enters different waveforms. So like we were talking earlier about coffee, when you're caffeinated, you're in high beta, which is a frequency of the brain. When you close your eyes for like 15 seconds, your brain starts to drop its frequency into the alpha state. And this is what meditation is just dropping the state of mind into a lower frequency range. And then as you start to fall asleep, those frequencies get lower and lower and lower. The deepest level is delta, which is basically comatose. But if you can reach like the alpha and theta levels of the brainwave, it changes the chemistry of the body, where the body will actually start to shut itself down to enter into the sleep mode.
Wow.
All right, but we're not aware of these processes. And through meditation, you break down these levels and these states so that you can be aware. It's all about awareness. So again, as I'm going to sleep and I could find that window and the body starts to shut down, there's a process that happens. And sometimes you'll feel like a warmth. It gets very warm in your stomach. You start to feel like tingling. And then the paralysis kind of spreads through your body quite naturally. And then once that happens, then you kind of wheel yourself out, or kind of like try to push yourself out. And then you can have these out-of-body experiences.
How do you push yourself out?
It's through will. Okay, so it's almost like you have to use your mental power to kind of push out, but you also activate that other body within you. People call it the astral body or spiritual body or etheric body or whatever definition you want to call it. There is this, let's call it the fourth dimensional self. Right now we're in the physical body in 3D, but you also have a multidimensional being within you. You are a multidimensional being is a better way to put it. And you could access different bodies to enter different dimensions. So think of you as like a Russian doll. You have all these etheric bodies around you, and each are connected to different consciousness. It's connected to different dimensions. So you can tap into that other body and kind of shift from this world, the 3D world, you shift into that world, and you have a body now activated in that other dimension.
And was this something that you taught yourself how to do, or did you learn it somewhere?
No, it was all self-taught.
Oh, wow.
At first, I didn't have any teachers because who can I talk to about this?
Yeah. You're like, I don't even know what's going on exactly.
And this, like I said, this is around 2002, 2003. YouTube didn't even start till 2004.
Yeah.
So I had to like learn from just my curiosity. And I would leave my body, and I was very afraid because I didn't know what would happen if I stayed out too long or if I got separated from my body. Like that was a real fear of mine. So at first I would just kind of go out into my bedroom and just hang out in my bedroom.
Oh, so you're not going into like an astral, like a different realm. It's like your actual bedroom and you're walking around like Earth.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Right. That's
okay.
interesting because you were afraid of, well, how long can I do this until I can't get back?
So it's kind of just like getting your feelings of like, this is a new environment.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And you don't have a body. Okay. The only way I could describe it as a field, and you're this like consciousness field. You're not breathing because there's no lungs or air. You're not seeing with eyes. You have 360 vision and you can zoom in and out of things, which is really awesome. I would play a lot where I would be like in my room, and let's say there was something on a shelf. From the bed, I can like zoom right into that object and zoom back in. And I found that it's like once you had the astral body awakened, it's kind of like a security system. So let's say like a being, when an entity comes in the room, if I wake up and I look around the room, I'm not going to see a thing because they're not in this dimension. But if that entity walks into the room, it's almost like my astral face kind of just peeks up. So it's just my neck and my head coming out of my body, and I could look around the room to see who's there. And then if something's not right, then I could leave my body and deal with it.
So do you think that that's what it is when like we see spirits or ghosts or anything like that? Like for some reason our astral body is able to perceive them and we're then somehow connecting to that? Or
yes, you have this kind of connection between the worlds. So you have that aspect of your multidimensional body available to you, and it's all about awareness. So most people, they're just aware of this physical world, but as you start to train and practice, you start to learn how to expand your awareness into these other fields so that you can read people, you could read the environment, or get information like that.
Okay, so you're experimenting in your room. You're zooming in and out of things.
And how old are you? You're like in your 20s or something at this point?
22, yeah,
Okay.
23.
All right, what happens when you start getting the courage to leave the room, leave the house, go outside? What's the next sort of
step?
rites of passage as far as your exploration of this space goes?
It's very complicated
Okay,
because
I bet.
I would say it's very similar to like the dream world, because even though I enter into my bedroom, it's almost like a memory of my bedroom. Okay, so it's not like my physical bedroom. There's subtle changes and differences, but you have to really study it to understand that there is changes and differences. And then I would start to kind of leave and go through the house, or I would even like go up through the roof, and I could see my house underneath me. But as I travel further, it's almost like you go through different dimensions.
So you could fly.
Well, yeah, because you don't have a body.
Yeah.
You're just a floating field in space, but things change. So for example, I remember distinctly like the first time like I left my house and I'm watching my house as I'm going up, and suddenly it's like I'm over like a jungle. Like just the whole landscape changed and now I'm over a jungle. But it was like instantaneous. I couldn't tell that there was a shift. It was just, there was my house and then the house was gone and there's a jungle. So you get these like instantaneous like jumping things. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's very strange.
Is this comparable to lucid dreaming?
No, because I do also lucid dreaming where you're awake in a dream and you could alter it. This is like you're in a dream and you have a body. So, you're interacting with the dream world, where it's almost like you don't have a body, you're flying through things, and it's almost like dimensional shifts are happening around you.
Okay, so what happens when you explore the world as a phantom, as an astral body?
It has a mind of its own.
What does?
Your astral body.
Oh.
What I found is that the moment that my consciousness or the mind of Jason tries to take control of the experience is over.
So you need to be a passenger in the seat and watch what happens.
Yes. So the extreme challenge was to maintain awareness. Okay. So I had to like shut my mind up, stop trying to control where I'm going, and just allow to be an observer of the experience. And that's very difficult to do.
Did you have any awareness of the astral body's like once, or what it wanted to do, or why it was going to certain places?
Yes. We are multiple, as in we live many lives many timelines simultaneously. And our spiritual body or essence or astral body, I still don't have a definition of what this is. That's how crazy this is. But it seems to have a life of its own. And I can give a story as an example of this.
Please.
One night, I leave my body and a portal opens up and it's like a magnetic pull. So I go through the portal and then I end up in space. And then my consciousness comes right back to my body and I wake up. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I really want to go to the other side of the portal. I want to know where I'm going. At nighttime, I'll just leave my body again. And another portal opens up. I'll go into that portal and then boom, I'm back in my body. No memory, no nothing.
What does the portal look like real quick?
It just looks like a black portal that just opens up in the space, and it can open up anywhere in the space. And as you're going through the portal, it feels like white noise, and it feels like intense wind over through your ears. Like the only way I could describe it, you know the static on a TV?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the static is like a gray-white static.
Yeah.
This is like a black static.
Okay.
That's what the inner portal looks like. It looks like black static.
So you go through and then you would just wake up.
Yeah, go through and wake up, And I can do this like 10 plus times a night. And it's frustrating. Like, I'm like, I want to know what is going on. Like, I am going through the experience, but I'm not being aware of what's happening on the other side. So like, I'm basically praying and putting out intentions. Like, I want to know what's happening. Can Jason come along and remember what's happening? And okay, this is a really weird story. So
we like it. Go.
Okay.
This is awesome.
Okay. So one night it happened. I go through the portal and this time the shadow is with me.
Oh.
Okay. So the shadow is actually taking me on this journey. So it's like behind me and it's like holding my shoulder.
The shadow from the initiatory experience?
The initiatory. And I'm thinking the shadow is just us. It's just a part of me. Okay. It's just another aspect of my consciousness. And so it's flying me through this portal. It's like guiding me. And suddenly we're in space. So I go through the portal and then now I'm in the stars. I'm in space. I'm flying through space and this thing is holding my shoulder, guiding me. And I say, where are we going? And it said to Pegasus, the Pegasus system. I don't really know much about stars back then, but I've heard of that constellation, the Pegasus constellation. So I'm like, okay. So we're flying through space and we're coming up to this planet and the planet looked like it was mostly ice, but like around the equator was like green. And it came down to this planet and I can see that there was buildings there. It was a school. I went right into a school and I entered a body of a child.
Whoa.
I woke up as a child in this classroom and I'm freaking out. Now I'm a little kid. I'm in this class, there's kids around me and I'm like so excited to be here that I'm turning to the kids around me and I'm like, who am I? What's my name? What's this? And everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Maybe I'm speaking a completely different language. Like everybody's just in shock that I'm like causing this disturbance. And the teacher's like looking at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, screw this. I need to find the library. So I get up from the desk and I run out of the room and I'm going down the hallway. All I can think of is I need to find the library. I need to find the library. I need to know where this is. And then I get popped out of this kid's body and they take me back through space, through the portal and into my body.
Whoa.
And I was like, is part of me, like an aspect of my spiritual self, this child on this world.
Right.
And as I'm going to sleep in this world, that aspect of me is then going over there.
Whoa.
Or you just possessed a child
and
while he's
that's
another
planet.
That is literally what happened.
and got him
scared all of
that
his
teacher
friends.
called his parents and was like, your kid is causing a scene again. I swear, Mom and Dad, I swear.
He's in the Pegasus insane asylum.
Yes.
Oh, poor kid.
So poor kid. I don't know what happened to him. But I'm sure he's fine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So,
and I found in other experiences, you have this kind of levels of control where you become the observer. So there's the level of observer. So you leave the body and you basically attach yourself like an entity. It's very strange, where you could observe another life. You can feel what they're feeling. You can think what they're thinking, but you're outside of them. And then there's the crazy experience where you step into them and it's Jason in that other body. And now it's like, this is crazy. What do I do now?
You know what's interesting about this? So, because we've heard that, so sometimes how all of a sudden you can become like really angry out of nowhere or like anxious or whatever. And you're like, where did that even come from? Right. I wonder if it's the same sort of thing because they talk about entities being able, like, kind of just moving through us throughout the day. And sometimes their like energies can attach to us. And that's why we have like ability to like clear stuff away from you if you like know how to do it. But I wonder if it's the same sort of thing. If there's literally just beings just being like, bloop, I'm just going to be in here for a second. And you're like, why do I feel different? It's just terrible. I feel anxious.
Or
whatever.
we're just passing through you know, parallel dimensions or parallel Earths or parallel times. We're just passing through.
Or all of the above.
Energies
it's just
or
super
entities
interesting.
and just we're constantly in this soup intermingling without our awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are vessels and we're open energy systems. We pick up things all the time. Okay, so we go into environments like you came to the show today and you're like, I got to get out of here.
Oh my God, the energy was so intense.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff there. So you really need to have your blockers.
It's about Conscious Life Expo, folks. We picked his ass up. He was doing lectures.
And Sarah, make sure you got to teach us how to put up those barriers. Is there a way to do that?
Yes. Basically, you have to build your energy, and that's what I was taught. You have to strengthen your electromagnetic fields so that these things don't attach to you. Because most people, their fields are extremely weak or they're like Swiss cheese. So these things can pass right through you and stay with you for a long time and cause havoc until you can have that separation.
Cody, literally every single energy or person, like he will literally just become that energy, whatever they are.
Yeah, because you're an empath.
It's problematic. I don't know what to do with it.
It does kind of mess with him a lot. Like he needs to learn how to.
This is sort of the blessing and the curse of it, but it's cool. I'm developing boundaries, and that's been helpful. But you know, it's when we hold circles together, me and T. That is like the blessing of it. Is I can be like, oh, you know, I can feel what's going on, what's in the field. But for me, I'm not experiencing it like, oh, that person has this and that person has this. I feel it in myself. Yeah. So my liver hurts and my heart hurts and my head hurts and I'm feeling all the injuries as it's myself. And before I learned and trained and realized what was happening, I'm just thinking I have all these illnesses and I have chronic headaches and all this. And then, you know, it's the cleaning and your field and you really learning the techniques to fully clean yourself. I also think isolating as a writer really got me in touch with my own energy. And then all of a sudden when I'm stepping out into the world, it's like, whoa, what is this?
This is not my energy.
You kind of need that sort of like, you know, the artificial isolation of a writer, you know, to really start to experience, you know, you need a blank canvas to start seeing when paint's getting smacked on it.
And this is the point, and this is part of the shamanic journey. And I just said you're an empath because it's exactly how I started. And basically you have to learn, the question is, what is my energy and what is not my energy? And for most people, it's very confusing because it's like, if you have a thought that comes in your mind, that's your mind. So people own it as their thought, or they have an emotion, it's in their body. They go, okay, that's my emotion. I'm feeling this sadness or this anxiety, or even pain, like you're saying pain. Now, the pain thing is really interesting because you're picking up on these traumas or these blocks that other people have. And what you're doing is you're taking them on yourself. And the reason you can feel it is because you can heal it. So that is your ability. And you can process it. So this is what was happening with me. And you know, like when you're like walking down the street or something and this thought just pops in your mind. And you're just
all
like,
the time.
Just like, I would never think that. Like, what is wrong with me? You know? And you have to learn that there are thought forms that are entities. We're very powerful beings and we can create these thoughts. And the more energy we feed these thoughts, they become like actual beings in these realms. And if we accept those thoughts, those things dig into us and want us to think of that more. And it feeds and gets stronger and stronger until it's taken you over.
That's very interesting. You describe them as thought forms?
Yes.
So, okay, to just give a story to that, because I'd like to probe a little bit deeper. So the first time I ever held a men's circle, very small men's circle, but I'm used to having, I only had ever had female facilitation before me and Tanya were in each other's life, my sister Shy, and then now Tanya. And we work as a team. So it was the first time I was holding space and I had a male assistant. And we're working with the medicine and I go to the bathroom and I start having these thoughts in my head, right? And a lot of shamanism is you're cleaning the space, you're doing protection, you're setting the space, you're making a container, right? And then I go to the bathroom and in my head starts running like, you should just masturbate. You should just masturbate. Like, you should just like, masturbate in the bathroom before you're going out. And I start being like, what the fuck? Like, where is that coming from? Like, that's not me. Like, what's going on? So I go out of the bathroom and I go to the assistant.
Who is it?
And well, there was a patient, the person we were there for, and there was someone who was experienced, but just a little bit, and he was facilitating. And I knew it was him. And I go to him and I go, dude, are you fucking thinking about jerking off in the bathroom right now? And he just bursts out laughing. He goes, how did you know that? And I'm like, because it's in the fucking field. I'm like, you can't bring that energy into the ceremony. We're holding space for this dude. I'm like, you can't do that. So it's absolutely true in terms of like the transference of thoughts and emotions. And, and we feel like that happens because the truth is we're all connected and we're sharing a collective space. So, but you're saying that those thought forms are within themselves entities?
Yeah, it's parasitic.
Okay, can you explain what that means and like sort of define that a little bit more?
Sure. Think of it like a seed. All right. So let's say every thought that we have symbolically is like a seed. And if we pay attention to it, awareness of that thought, what we're doing is we're sending our energy to it. So our thoughts, our focus, our awareness on a thought is actually directing our life force energy like water to a seed. And that seed starts to grow like a plant. And the more you water it, that stronger those roots are of that plant, until that plant just wants your water all the time because it's getting bigger and bigger and needs more water to support it. So it becomes this parasitic thing. And I've seen these things in the astral world.
What do they look like?
Monstrous. Like, I see, this is when you enter into like the shaman school where you have to learn how to deal with these things in the astral, where, for example, I would get a thought form that is like a mental illness, like a real problem. And I would see it in the astral and it looks like a monstrosity. It should not exist. And at that point, I have to get rid of it. You become like an astral assassin. Like, to put it bluntly, it's like you want that thing destroyed. So basically you grab it and kind of rip it apart.
Oh, wild.
And what happens after that?
It's gone.
Okay, can we talk about this?
Yeah.
I want to say something because I had an experience inside of ayahuasca where my grandma came in and she was alive at the time. And I saw her then like boyfriend come in and I could see that it was almost like he was dripping in black. Like it was, and I was like, oh my God, he's a parasite. He's literally draining her life force energy. Like I could see it and we could like literally see it on him. It was so horrifying. And I was like, oh my God, he's a parasite. This is what's happening to my grandma. He's literally draining her.
And
he was draining her. And it's so wild because I did like all these prayers. Like I was like, God, I was like, get this parasite off my grandma, like blah, blah, blah. Literally within like 3 weeks after I did this like prayer, all of a sudden he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer and died a week later.
Oh, you killed your
like it was so fast. No,
Tanya.
but I didn't. I was like, hey, get this parasite off my grandma. Like I was like, if this is actually a thing, get him off of her. And then sure enough, he died.
Yeah.
Very fast.
I mean, well, this is sort of the, yeah, what are you going to say about that?
Basically, sometimes you see people that are very elderly. Everything they do is they try to make your life a living hell.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is this person still alive? It's like they're on 50 different medications. And it's like, sometimes these entities are in so deep, like you just said, that the entity itself is literally keeping that person alive for as long as possible. It's kind of like a parasite in its host.
It's like that mummy one or whatever that goes inside the insects and then starts maneuvering them, but it's really just a parasite. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's fucking dark.
That's wild.
Okay, so
Sorry.
No. I love it. That's very Canadian of you to just hit us with sorry after that. I love it. So I'm on a contract right now. I'm writing this movie for Imagine Entertainment. It's called Love Advice from the Great Duke of Hell. So really been exploring these sort of themes of Jungian shadow work. Okay. This would take such a long prologue for me to get into to really unpack. So I'm just going to try to cut to the fucking chase here. Okay. Tanya and I shamanically have been operating where your mind goes, your energy flows. There's that old proverb, the indigenous proverb that's famous online. It's like there's, you know, the chief tells his son, there's two wolves inside of you. One is greed, jealousy, hate, anger, lust. The other is love, compassion, honesty, patience, right? The chief says the two wolves are always at war with each other. And the son says, well, which one of them wins, Dad? And he says, the one you feed, right? So this is the idea of starving the negative and just feeding the positive, right? You know, so if you shoot a basketball, you know, and you look away or you take your eye off the ball, so to speak, or the eye off the rim, you know, you miss, right? So just focusing on the good and not the bad, right? I guess Carl Jung has an entire psychology around integrating your shadow. You know, when it comes to demonism, there is the daemon. There is this ancient, it's even Buddhist philosophy that a demon is essentially a part of yourself. It's a small child and that it just wants to be listened to. It's a pain, it's a trauma that you've turned away from, and it gets louder and louder and more monstrous. And the key to healing this demon is to essentially listen to it and ask what it wants to tell you. And then this very specific Buddhist practice, it will say that if you focus on the pain, you ask the demon its name, it will reveal its name to you, and it will essentially reveal its face to you, and it will be you as a child. And that is how you heal this demon. So I guess this philosophy of Jungian shadow work, of listening to your demon, is that different or the same than what you're talking about of sort of like ripping up the negative and ignoring the negative? Because we feel like people in the modern non-denominational spiritual community, there's a lot of spiritual gaslighting that happens where people don't face their traumas and their demons and things like that.
When you go through a trauma in life, a piece of you is taken, okay? And that piece of you is the piece that's hurt. So you have these fractures, these infinite fractures. And so this piece of you, let's say you go through a trauma, that piece of you leaves your body. Now, that piece of you, all it wants to do is come back to you. But because that piece of you is damaged through that trauma, it's kind of like it holds that energy of the trauma. So when we get it back to us, we don't want anything to do with it because it's like the mirror of the dark soul, where it's coming back to you and saying, this is the part of me that's hurt. And over time, if you don't integrate it back, it gets worse and worse and worse. And it could become like a haunting where this thing continually is attacking you because it's saying, look, I want to come home, but you're rejecting me.
Trying to get your attention.
Yes. And, because we're not taught these things, we think immediately it's evil. We think it's like a demon attacking us in the middle of the night. But it's really an aspect of us that's hurt and it wants to come home. Sometimes. So you have to really be careful with these things. And this is why, the shamanic training is so important. But I'll give you an example. One night I'm sleeping and this entity comes into the room. And this entity was so dark and so heavy that it's like the darkness like comes in like a shadow and it crushes you. You can't breathe. I just knew that I needed to send healing to it. So all I'm doing is just, saying I love you and I'm giving you what you need and this and that, right? And as I'm doing that, suddenly the room gets lighter, lighter, and lighter. And the next thing I know, this giant shadow turns into somebody I know and they were crying on the floor. So it's like it revealed who this was and their hurt and their pain and what they've become over the years of holding that pain. So it's like doing a healing on that spiritual aspect. And then you take that spiritual aspect and you return it to the owner. Now, as I started to learn these things, pieces of yourself start to come back. And you sometimes when they come back, they're changed, but they're still you. And you still need to accept what this is. And so one night, it's like a shadow, dark thing. It's like straight out of like a scary movie, it crawls up on the bed. It goes on top of you and it's like crushing you. You can't breathe at night. And it's like my higher consciousness, which I'm very connected to, just basically told me like, this is a part of you that's been lost. And it's been trying to get back for a long time. And instead of pushing it away, like most people have a visceral reaction to like, get this thing off. Instead, I literally put my arms, like astral arms around it and loved it. And I brought it right, pulled it into my body.
Whoa.
And once I did that, it was like Kundalini experience.
Wow.
It's like the whole body just like lit on fire. And I was in the most euphoric state you could possibly, like nirvana.
Wow. So that's different than what you were describing before, which is almost like an egregore?
Egregore would be a thought form that you're creating. So that's one thing. Remember, there's many things.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other entity that came was a piece. It's kind of like a soul retrieval. So a piece of someone I knew that was very close to, that piece of them wanted integration, and it couldn't get integrated with the person, so it came to me for help. So I did the integration for them. And then the third thing was a piece of yourself that was broken through trauma coming back to be integrated. I talk about these things, but this has been ongoing for like 20 years. At the beginning, I didn't know what this was, but now I do know what it is. And that's why I'm working like this.
So did you receive training?
Yeah.
in this? How did you like actually start to learn what was happening outside of just, you know, from trial and error?
After the astral projection, right? Yeah.
So I'll go right back to like 2002, 2003, my early 20s, when I started to have communication with these entities. So I'd leave my body and there'd be an entity in the room and I could telepathically speak. Because remember, there's no voice. So they use your voice. So you hear your voice in your head talking to you. Basically, they explained to me that my energy was like Swiss cheese. It was very weak. And if I continued to leave my body and if I continued to do this work, I'm going to get very sick. I will take entities back with me into the physical world, and it would destroy my life.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the reason is they say, if you wanted to continue this, you need to heal yourself. All right. So that is the shamanic path. You need to heal yourself. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? You need to fix your energy field. You need to strengthen your energy field so that you can actually go out and do this work. Because right now you can't do anything. You're just going to be attacked going out there. So I was led into first Qigong, which is an ancient system from China of moving energy or circulating energy or cultivating energy within you. It's kind of like healing your qi, healing your energy. So that's where I started. And I became like an avid Qigong practitioner where I did it 3 times a day for years. And that's when I started to open up and feel energy physically. So I was like bridging those dimensions. And then I got into shamanism. And luckily where I live, which is in Canada, there was a person from Ottawa who is the Algonquin shaman. Fortunate enough, he was willing to teach people. And so I was part of his first classes. And so he would teach me the philosophy of the shamanic philosophies and what to do in certain situations, how to use different tools like stone medicine, chakra medicine, animal totems, like basically the foundational shamanic things. And so I was taught like that, but those are kind of just like guides. So you give you like the form, like 1 to 10, this is the steps that you need to do. But then when you actually start to do it and have these experiences, you're really on your own. And so you really have to do trial and error until you figure it out.
For sure.
And that's what I was doing, is just self-learning, self-taught.
Which you were doing prior to even learning any of the shamanic tools.
You think Qigong is sort of perfect for healing the holes in your energy field and cultivating your Qi, Ka, Prana?
It's fundamental. I do not know any other way to get to that level.
Is it beyond Reiki? Because I use Reiki to like fill my, to
Qigong's like moving the energy. It's like energy, like movements, right?
Yeah, it's energy movements and connecting to your environment and connecting to different energy systems. And Reiki is part of that. So you are doing a type of Qigong when you're doing Reiki. The Qigong itself will take your Reiki to the highest level possible. Okay, let's talk like traditional Chinese or Vedic knowledge of energy. You have the channel system, the meridians going through your body. You have the chakras, you have the energy fields. Think of the channels as like straws, like little straws. So you have all these little straws going through your body like an energetic circulatory system. Some of these meridians or these channels are blocked, like they'll have these crystallized energies within them so that the energy doesn't flow properly. It kind of has to make different routes through the body to get the energy through. And, if you're weakened, those straws where the channels are, they're very, very constricted and tight. All right. So the energy going through you, it's still moving through you, but it's very slow, very heavy. And so what Qigong does is you're starting to stimulate the channels, stimulate how energy moves through you. So you're slowly not only removing those blocks, but you're opening those channels up so more energy can come through you. So instead of like a swamp with no movement of water, and that's, swamp, when you're a swamp, everything dies, to like a rushing river. So that you want the chi to flow through you like a rushing river. And as you do that, you can start to channel and work with the energy at a certain level. All right. So like you're talking about personally that, you go to some place and like you feel the energy, you're an empath, it sticks to you. Well, that used to happen to me too. It's like, why am I picking up other people's energy and then I'm stuck with it for days? It's causing havoc in my life. I don't want this, but it's in me, it's stuck. So the energy attaches to you and it's hard to get rid of. But if your energies are not stuck and they're flowing very fast and there's an abundance of that energy moving through you, those things it's almost impossible for them to stick. All right. So I remember I would do classes like early on in these teachings, and I'd stand up in front of a group of people, like 50 people. And after I do my talk, it felt like I got hit by a truck. Yeah. I couldn't even get out of the bed the next morning. I was like sick. Because their eyes on me, their attention on me, I'm receiving that energy and I'm taking it home with me. And that's really bad. So after doing Qigong for so many years, it's like now it's like I'll feel that energy come to me and I'll feel it so I know where it comes from. But then it's almost instantly I feel it get worked out of my system.
Are you doing protection when it comes to, or are you just working your energy system so consistently that you're just flushing it out? It's like you're constantly flushing your system as opposed to thinking in terms of protection and me versus them. Like, I feel like most of my teachers, what's theirs is theirs, what's mine is mine. And, all that. So, zipping up your field and, visualization.
You can do all of that. All right. Like I'm wearing jewelry, like precious stones, which have spiritual qualities to them for purposes. But I'm come from the system that there is no protection. That's all false. You can put like Band-Aids on. The only protection you have is your own energy field. And if your own energy field is weakened, you can put as many pendants you want on you, things will still affect you. Maybe the belief in those objects, those ritual objects, will protect you to some level, but it will not protect you at the level you need if your energy is working properly. So this is why it's fundamental for me, and I always teach the fundamental. Learn the Qigong, learn how to use your energy, because if you know Qigong and you've been practicing it for a long time, and then you do Reiki, your Reiki is going to be insane.
Do you want to share the fundamental teachings of shamanism, navigating the astral planes, and this type of work? Because I think the truth is that a lot of us are cowboy in it. A lot of people are working with these ancient shamanic medicines without teachers, doing it in the underground.
Even not even with medicine, just in general.
Medicine, I just think, it's funny to watch the West commercialize all these ancient techniques like meditation and yoga, and they brand them as mindfulness. But the stark reality of what these experiences, these tools can unlock, if you do them right and you practice consistently, it's a pantheon that is, people don't have the proper tutelage. And, my mom she's so funny. Every time I see her, she's bringing me tourmaline crystals and put them around my neck, they get worried, she understands because she's done enough ceremonial work. She understands that it can be dangerous. I mean, do you think this type of work can be dangerous?
Of course it can be. And this is why many people that get into like energy healing, they'll do it like gung-ho. like they're so into the love and light and here's your free Reiki and all this stuff.
Me.
They'll get into it like, and they'll do it for like a year or two. And then they'll get like really sick or something hits them.
That was
Literally
him.
me.
And then they're like, I'm done. There's no way I'm doing this again.
This was me. My family had an intervention trying to get me to stop, and I had to take a vow to stop from ayahuasca. She pretty much said it would be helping someone who was drowning. They will pull you under to get above. And she showed me hands reaching out to help someone and showed me pressing them together in prayer and said, do not reach out to help them. They said, put your hands together and ascend. And yeah, she made me take a vow to stop. I broke the vow like 2 or 3 times and got crazy sick from it. So yeah 100%.
And the reason being is nobody teaches the fundamentals. No one understands what's happening. Everybody has, remember, the mind is great, but the mind can fool you. Just because we believe that we're protected doesn't mean we're protected. It's not just the mind in play here. You're a multidimensional being and you have to consider all the factors, not just the mind and not just your belief. You know, we talk about meditation like the still pond. They say, okay, clear your mind and you'll have the still pond. But if you have all these attachments, all these thoughts that are running through your mind, all these traumas, those are all stones being thrown into that pond. So you can sit there and meditate and try to clear your mind, but all the things that you are carrying are creating this crazy chaos of water always. You think with your mind then and say, okay, I need protection or I need this. And you take that pebble that you just created with that thought and you throw it into that pond. It won't even make a ripple because there's so much turbulence in that pond already. So the point is, it's not just clearing your mind. You have to clear your energy on all these different levels and your mind until that pond or that energy system is calm. And then you can take that pebble from your mind and throw it in. Because imagine if that pond is completely clear and you have that one singular thought and then you threw it in that pond. That thought would ripple the entire water. It would be a clear message to the universe. And this is where you have to kind of get to and understand that there are multiple factors that play it all the time. We usually fool ourselves into this kind of ego belief that we're indestructible, or we can do this just because I have faith. And without the proper training, without the proper energy, you get into situations like you got yourself into, and sometimes it could be very bad for the practitioner. And that's when they go and they turn to the real shamans. And then the shamans have to literally save them and work on them and to get them back to health. And then they say, look, you better stop doing what you're doing because you do not understand what you're taking on in your life.
Yeah.
So for me, remember at the beginning, I said, this is going to be a serious conversation. Yeah. It's not like unicorns and rainbows. This is like dark work.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this work is shadow work, I mean, that's one of the things with the shamanic path is a lot of modern spirituality is sort of love and light, not our experience of shamanism. It is the most grueling shit. I mean, it's literally, I don't know, Tanya, if we've ever felt.
It feels like you have to go through hell to get to heaven sort of thing. Like you have to get through the really intense stuff in order to be able to get to the light stuff.
It's painful. And that's it's so comical to us because there's so many people that might thumb their nose at the work or poo poo or think it's woo woo. And when the reality of the work is the darkest, most twisted, most fucking metal, punk rock, rebellious, break the fucking matrix and kill yourself on the altar of the most twisted shit to be reborn again and again and again and again.
It takes the ultimate strength for sure and the ultimate bravery.
Yeah, nothing has and honestly, Tanya, that is the heartbeat of our love is me looking at you fucking dying in front of me. and
it's true. When you puke in a bucket next to somebody, you become very close.
Well, we joke and say puke in a bucket. It's so much worse.
It's so much more than that. It's just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I know, Jason, you were inviting sort of the seriousness of this into when we first sat down. And yeah, and I do appreciate it. I feel like we have a lot to learn from you,
We also want to we're going to end up doing a class with Jason at some point, shooting some stuff for him because we know that you have so much to teach and there's so many people out there that would love to have a teacher and understand this sort of thing. And
Yeah.
it's hard for people to, go to a monastery or go somewhere for a long period of time. So like having the ability to actually like sit down and like do something online.
Yeah, I
would
think
be
we
so
should make this
crucial.
happen.
We are.
Do some
We're going to.
classes with you.
And I would just say that the role of a teacher is very different in my personal understanding, because I can only show you techniques or guide you with my stories and experience. And yes, I can help you along the way. But like most people, they want somebody else to grab their hand and take them.
Mm.
And it's really this individual experience that takes so many years of your life that even myself, it's not over. I still feel like I'm in kindergarten.
Yeah, same, Z's. I mean, like, and we've been doing this for a long time too, but not about your half
Not
life.
at Jason's level.
Yeah.
Well, the truth, so that's the truth, is I can give the tools, all right? But everything that I teach you, it's your responsibility and your responsibility solely to work on yourself and face yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally the job. That is the work, is you
Right.
need to face yourself. That is the hardest work you'll ever do.
Yeah. I love that you described it as like you're pretty much just getting taught like the forms.
Yeah.
And then but you can't walk through the door for them. I mean, it's like being taught to scuba dive on land, but never going in water. And then next thing you know, you're in the water and it's an alien world. There's all these creatures and you could be taught breath work, but being actually, in another dimension where the vibrations eviscerating your thoughts and you're scared and terrified and, it's easy to forget your breath,
What do you think is the most important thing for people to know that are watching right now if they're trying to access these realms or work on themselves or whatever it may be to be able to become the highest version of themselves? What do you think that they should know?
I would put it out there that whatever comes at you in those worlds, you have to really have a strong will. And what I mean by strong will is that, let's say you do get in trouble and something does attack you, you have to not think, you have to know that you are stronger than whatever that is. All right. So you have to kind of find your true nature of yourself. And this is what we're all trying to do. We all talk about oneness. We all talk about like how strong our psychic abilities are, some garbage like that. What you really need to do is tap into the part of yourself that's eternal. Okay? We all are something. Right? I cannot tell you what that is because you have to experience it. But the moment you tap into that part of yourself, nothing can touch you. So you have to know how to reach that part of yourself.
So the medicines we work with, at least in my experience, they always present shadow first.
Mm-hmm.
Not always, but I mean, I was saying this earlier, like over the past few years or a couple years now, because the experience evolves. Now I'll literally see like almost this white flash with my eyes closed, and I'll literally see figures enter the space, sit around me. They'll sage me and feather me. It's like the ancestors. They're all in white. I can't see their faces. I did a ceremony recently, a couple months ago. They were in Mesoamerican clothes, but the person it was for was, had Mesoamerican heritage. But once the ceremony starts, like it can come very dark. And in the beginning, I would freak out. And then later on, I realized if I did not react negatively and move away, it would turn into divinity. How do you discern, like, if you're getting negative constructs from the medicine versus that being a genuine thing that you should be protective and defensive about, or if it's just spirit working on the shadow part of your soul or your psyche?
All the medicine is doing is revealing to you what's already there. So those things that you're seeing, that you're having those experiences with, they were there to begin with. And these things are now showing you. And it's saying now the medicine is revealing what is going on. And now you have the opportunity to work with it, transform it, or do whatever it is. And this is why, they say like bad trips or things like this, because When you first start out in this, all those things, all those thoughts, all those emotions, all those traumas, all those things you've picked up, they're right there in your field. So when people take these medicines, the first thing they're going to see is the things that they carry. It's going to be revealed. And sometimes that will be a huge shock to the system. It might even be completely overwhelming where you're freaking out and you want this to stop and end. And, it just says, okay, they're not ready now, but they will be ready in the future. At least they're getting introduced to what they carry. And a lot of people will go, well, this medicine is like a dark spirit. And when I took it, now I have this dark spirit. Or you have a different perspective on it and saying, it showed you that dark spirit. And now it's bothering you because it's been exposed. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said it's your responsibility and you need to take responsibility, because now that it's been revealed to you, because you have asked for it to be revealed, even if you weren't conscious of asking it for it to be revealed, now you have to figure out the way to get through it. And that is the shamanic path. That is the healing path. You need to learn. And the only way to learn is to do it. Okay, if a shaman comes and takes it away from you, you didn't learn your lesson, because it's going to happen again and again and again and again until you realize that you are the one that needs to do it. And then once you learn how to do it, it becomes easier and easier.
Thank you,
Jason.
We love you.
Thank you so much for coming on this show today.
Worth the wait.
We need you on like 10 more times.
Yeah, seriously.
I just can't believe I said this on camera.
Wait, you've never said this?
I've talked about these things, but not at this serious level. No.
Well, brother, thank you for feeling comfortable enough. I'm sure, because you just sat here during Sarah's episode, I'm sure that primed you. But this is what disclosure is, and this is about, and even, my throat closing up. You were saying during her episode, your throat was closing up. Like, this is part of the healing. Yeah. A lot of psychiatrists that work with people, let's say they're in the closet because they're gay or they've had an abduction, part of the prescription for their healing is sharing it, and
that's how we learn, is through each other's stories.
This is where we are.
Every time we share something that seems way too vulnerable, there's tons of people in our comment section be like, oh my God, somebody else has had the same experience. And this is really important that we all share our experiences.
We need you to speak up about this.
Yeah,
this is profound, and we really need the tutelage, what you've learned.
More so now than ever.
Yeah, please. And we appreciate it. This was an education for us too.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share this with your audience.
We love you. It's our audience. We love you. And it's, honestly, it's not even our audience. Like, we all a fucking team. We're all in this fucking shit together. Everyone that's listening, this is, all ships rise together.
So, Jason, how can they find you? And can you also tell us the names of your books so they can read those? And
Sure. My main website is called thecrystalsun.com, which has a bunch of crystals on it, obviously. I love crystals. And my books. You could also find my books on Amazon. My books are called The Egyptian Postures of Power, Astral Genesis, and Gates of the Anunnaki. So those are 3 books that really get into mysticism and healing and ancient civilization and knowledge. You could find me on Twitter at Jason_Quitt, or X now. I think I'm a lot funnier on social media. Yeah. Not as serious.
Dude, we need 10 episodes. No wonder why we're always we're going to do a class.
Yeah, of course. We've known this for a long time.
You always have a home, a platform, an outlet through this channel. Come on as many times. I would love to, I had no idea you were such a crystal hoe. I want to hear all about because crystal magic is pretty interesting. I could talk about it forever. But okay. All right. If you're still with us, please subscribe, rate,
comment.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
We love you all. Be well.
Bye.
Peace.